Hi everyone, my name is Adam McCarthy and I'm here today to share with you my reflection from my teaching unit that I did for both of my assignment 4 and here for my reflection for my assignment 5 for our AEP 867 class. So let's go ahead and get started here on my slides that I have. So the first bullet point that was listed was do the tasks yield appropriate evidence of the identified understandings? Well, before we can start looking at this, you kind of need to know a little bit about the unit that I teach. So I'm an 8th grade science teacher at Mays Middle School, and we are currently doing a unit in physics. And so for my unit of study, I chose to take on Newton's 3 laws of motion. So the students had about a 20-minute lecture as well as about a day-and-a-half lab for each of Newton's 3 laws. And then they had a cumulative quiz over all of his 3 laws that was electronic. And then for their kind of final project over the entire unit, they had to design their own experiment in which they were to incorporate all of Newton's 3 laws. So it could have been anything. They could have found some cool ideas on Pinterest or anywhere else online, as long as they were able to perform the experiment in class. So it had to obviously be something safe that they could do at school. And they had to correctly identify where all of Newton's 3 laws of motion applied in their experiment. And once they finished up with that, they then had to come and present their lab to the class and make a formal lab report. So it was a really cool experience. So overall, I really did enjoy the unit that I taught. There are a few changes that I will make, and I think I've commented on most of those here. Let's go ahead and get started with what I've written so far. Regarding appropriate evidence, yes, the formal quizzes that I gave as well as the project that was required at the end of the unit incorporates understanding of all the concepts that were taught throughout the unit of Newton's 3 laws of motion. The students needed to display their understanding of all the laws in order to create their own experiment. They also then had to present to the class how each law applied to experiment, which I already hit on before. But it was really cool to see some of the ideas and things that kids came up with throughout their experiments, and to also give them some practice getting the public speaking experience as well, I really think is important. Next I have, do the tasks involve a complex, real-world, or authentic application of the identified knowledge, skill, and understandings? I really think this hits back to my labs that I did, and each of them is associated with an authentic application. You know, we take the material they learned about in the 15 to 20 minute lecture portion of each day, and then they applied those ideas with a hands-on experiment in the lab. And so I have here listed the different activities or labs that we did with Newton's 3 laws. And for the sake of time, I'm not going to delve real deep into them, but I do have them here listed for you. One was called the rollback cylinder, which was talking about Newton's first law. Then I had the puffball lab, which explained a lot about forces in motion and Newton's second law. And then we did an acceleration lab, which hit hard on Newton's third law of motion. And then lastly, we had our kind of cumulative project, where they had to incorporate Newton's 3 laws into their own experiments. Next, are a variety of appropriate assessment formats used to provide additional evidence of learning? And in my unit, I said yes, there are a variety of assessments used throughout this unit. The online quizzes that I gave over each of Newton's laws of motion, as well as the cumulative quiz, as well as the formal written lab reports that went along with each lab. So both ways were different methods that I could use to check for understanding if they were really understanding the concepts or not. Then my next slide says, are students given the opportunity to self-assess and reflect upon their learning and performance? And here's my response. Students are given the opportunity to reflect on their final lab assignment for the unit, which was create your own experiment. They are to discuss at the end of their required lab report what they would do differently if they were to perform the lab again. They were also required to highlight on the positives and negatives they experienced while they completed the final assignment of the unit. And so that was really interesting to hear, not only written to me, but also for the students to share with the other students during their presentation of their experiment that they did, things that they would do differently next time, or maybe a different experiment they researched beforehand that they would have chosen instead. But that's pretty much it for my reflection over my assignment 4 and my unit for teaching to understand. Okay, so thanks for watching.